Very welcome to another SUP46 session where we invite experts, share their learnings, and talk about tangible and actionable way to improve your business or however you're operating. So as always, it's going to be 45 minutes plus 15 minutes Q&A, and I'm going to let Tyler decide if he wants questions before or whatever. As always, for best experience for everyone, keep your mics on mute, your webcams turned on. We'll share the recordings afterwards, and will be available in the library, and presentation will be sent. Thanks to Kat for coordinating everything, and she'll keep track on the late arrivals and handle any incoming questions and keep track on time. Don't forget to respond on the survey afterwards. It really helps us improve and keep the content good. With that said, very, very welcome to today's expert host, Tyler, SUP46 original advisor, founder of Stockholm Tech Fest, and Tech Meetup and everything Stockholm Tech. Very influential in the way we developed the community in the past. So I'm happy to have you here. And yeah, you're one of the most experienced pitch coaches on the planet. So, and I've seen you do wonders with presentations and pitches in the past. Thank you, Tyler, for joining. Thank you, members, for tuning in to do this live. Leaving the floor to you, Tyler. Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, great to be here and happy to help Swedes who suffer from the curse of bad pitches. And it's funny because before coming to Stockholm, 9 years ago, actually, I have to train because it's actually right now when I came. So it's now like kind of the 9th year anniversary. So now 9 years ago, I was kind of, prior to that, I had spent a decade, actually 12 years, like doing hardcore full-time pitch coaching for large conferences. The conference that Jason and I used to do in America, which is the largest tech conference in America. And we'd have hundreds of startups pitch on stage, and I had to coach all of them. And they've included many of the biggest tech companies in America today. And when I arrived in Sweden, I realized, holy shit, these guys suck at pitching, like really bad. Just generally. But the good thing is they're smart enough to know that they suck and they know they need help, and that's fine. But the interesting thing is, of all of the things that, Sebastian and I have done in helping grow the startup ecosystem, I really never brought the pitch coaching to Stockholm, actually, other than like I've done it twice like this before in 9 years, even though I was doing it every day for 12 years in America. So it's kind of funny how little we've actually done this. So happy to do it again in this context. So we'll jump right into it, I guess. Let me share my deck with y'all. And here it is. Hopefully you can see my deck now, right? It says this workshop organized by SUP46. People giving me the thumbs up. So we're just going to steamroll right along. And amazing that logo has lasted as long as it has, Sebastian.
I get the point.
I get the first time.
It has matured like George Clooney, still beautiful. Yeah. But we're working on the branding.
No, it's endearing. It's the so what's the first thing I want to say here? That's a decent logo, but here's the fundamentals. The first thing when people try to write pitches, they're often thinking about, it's me and my startup, and what do I want to say about me? What do I want to say about our product, our features? What can I tell about us, about me, about we, about our features and our products and our service? And that's actually backwards. It isn't about you and your products and your features. It's about whoever you're pitching to. And so when you're imagine yourself sitting there crafting your pitch, I want you to imagine your audience, not yourself and your startup. And everyone gets that exactly backwards. That's step number one. And your audience changes. Sometimes it's a group a small group. Sometimes it's an individual. Sometimes it's a huge crowd. That is actually critically important. And I'll give you more detail on that in a minute. The other thing that everyone gets backward is they think about the beginning, and in reality, what I would encourage you to do is focus on what exactly do you want this individual you're pitching, or this small group that you're pitching, or this large group that you're pitching to do at the end of your pitch, and be incredibly crystal concrete clear about that action that you want them to take. And in that process, whether it's you want them to give you money, okay, let's be clear about that, and let's get into the more nuance of that. Do you want them to sign up on your web page with a link? Do you want them to, there needs to be a very precise goal in mind, and we're going to go into the essence of that as well. But you can already sense how different this setup is than what most people do by default. The default is they think it's about me, and it's the start, and it's about, hi, I'm so-and-so, and right off the bat, you did it completely backwards.
It feels
right?
like they start with, there's those templates, like presentation deck templates that's supposed to be in a presentation. That doesn't, like something that you can hand over. That doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense in a sort of speaking context.
Well, imagine it this way. I come from Los Angeles, and a lot of my friends were Hollywood script writers. And when they're making Hollywood movies, they start out with, who are we going to make a movie for? Who's got money? And what is the end of the movie? The end of the movie is this, we save the planet, or the end of the movie is, what's the emotion we're going to try and get these people leaving the movie theater with? And so I'm applying the same kind of power of Hollywood, because, by the way, they've been doing it for like 100 years, and they're pretty good at it. They kind of know what they're doing, much more so than your average startup founder does. So 2 keys that we're also taking from Hollywood to make your pitch a success is, the key to your pitch is that it is memorable and likable. And why is that important? Well, we're going to get into, I'm going to prove this point to you in a second. You don't have to believe me. You want them, because generally when you're pitching, even though you think you are pitching to, again, an individual or a small group or a large group, you assume you're the only one pitching. And in reality, that is almost never the case. They almost always have you going, even if it's investors, they had 5 startups before you and 5 startups coming after you, and you get, 1 hour in the office, but it's part of a pitch day for them, and they scheduled you as part of their pitch day. Or it's some organization and they've got 100 startups pitching. It's almost always this way. If you're pitching anybody, you're part of a whole bunch of startups that are pitching them in some sense for something, and you blend in to the crowd of 100 pitchers. And I'm saying this because I was a conference organizer, and we had to pick out of thousands of startups applying who we wanted to have pitch on stage, and they all become a blur of each other. And the ones that stand out are the ones that are memorable, and the ones that were likable. I mean, you can be memorable and not likable. That's bad. I wouldn't suggest that. So but I would suggest you be memorable and likable. Those 2 things go together in a very nice way, and I'll explain why, and I'll prove it right now. Does anyone remember the movie from which I took this photo? Raise your hands. I can see all of you right now at home. I see 2. Okay, everyone's got their hands up. Go ahead and say to yourself out loud the name of the movie from which this is from. Okay, good. Everyone remembers this. Now, what's amazing about that is this movie is 30 years old, and you might only be 40 years old, which means for some reason, you remember something from when you were 10 years old that your brain should have forgotten, because you can't, by the way, what did you eat for breakfast or dinner or lunch precisely 1 week ago today? Your brain, good luck, forget it, no chance. What was slide number 5 of the last pitch deck you saw from a startup? Or slide number 1 or 2 or 3? What was the fucking name of the last startup pitch that you saw? The company name. You might not be able to remember. But do you remember the name of this movie? You do. Well, why is that? That was 30 years ago. It's a 90-minute movie, and you remember all kinds of things about this 90-minute pitch from 30 years ago, yet you can't remember any part, even the name of the company that pitched from last week. And there's a very important reason for that, because of the way our brains are designed from birth as biological creatures. And just for context, do you remember this guy had a friend who flew with him in the airplane? Do you remember the friend's name? Raise your hand if you remember the friend's name that he flew with in this airplane. Or do you remember he had a girlfriend in the movie? Do you remember what color hair she had? Yes or no? Almost certainly yes. Do you remember he played a sport at some point in the movie, right? He played some kind of game with his shirt off, right? Was it, did he go bowling? Was he skydiving? No. You remember he was playing volleyball. Do you remember this or not? Yes or no? Yes, you do. Everybody does. Your brain should have forgotten that. That is not useful information for you in 2021 or any time for the rest of your life. So why is your brain holding on to that information? It's because our brains are wired for stories. And why are our brain wired for stories? And this is critical to you making a successful pitch, by the way. You are now going to have an incredibly unfair advantage if you make note of what I'm about to share with you. Because from before you could speak, from before you knew your own name, your parents were reading little stories to you, like the 3 here on my screen. And every American knows these 3 stories. I'm not sure that Swedes do necessarily. The one in the upper left is called Jack and Jill. And it's the story of 2 kids who, Jack and Jill, went up the hill to get a pail of water. You see the water. Jack fell down, broke his crown, meaning he split his head open, and Jill came tumbling after. The next one is Humpty Dumpty. Do you guys know Humpty Dumpty? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, as you see in the photo. All the king's horses, all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty back together again. The third one, Little Miss Muffet, sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Down came a spider, sat down beside her, and something else happened. I can't believe I still remember these nursery rhymes from 40 years ago, verbatim. I shouldn't be able to remember every word of these things because I haven't said those in 15 years, right? So, but what's interesting is there's something that all 3 of these have in common. Can you see what it is by looking at the photo? Something quite remarkable that's similar between these 3 stories. Does it jump out at you? These are children's stories, after all, for like 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, right? So the remarkable similarity is that there is actual intense drama going on in these stories. You notice Jack's face when he fell down with the pail of water. You notice the Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall. Look at his face. He's terrified. And she's being freaked out by the spider. Like, shit is happening. Like, there is drama, and drama is in every Hollywood movie you've ever seen as well. And there's, by the way, these are as short as those 3. I read all 3 stories to you in 1 minute. And each story is about a character. Jack and Jill went up the hill, fetch a pail of water. That's the intro. Jack fell down and broke his crown. Second sentence, drama. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, character. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, drama. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, character. Down came a spider, sat down beside her, drama. First sentence, character. Second sentence, drama, every time. That's the formula. That's every Hollywood movie you've ever seen. Here's Forrest Gump. Here's Tom Cruise. Here's whoever. It's the character. It's all about the character. They do about 5 minutes of character development, and they get you in the first 5 minutes of every Hollywood film to empathize with the character. You are Harry Potter. You are Luke Skywalker when you watch those movies. Are you not? Do you not in some weird way say to yourself, I'm kind of like this Tom Cruise kind of guy, or in some way I see a little bit of myself in Harry Potter or whoever the main character in the film is. Am I crazy or not? Do you do that or not? You do. We all do. That's by design, by the way. They are doing that intentionally. And you're going to do that too as part of your pitch. You're going to start with a character, and your character is going to be designed for the listener to imprint themselves onto the character. And it's critically important that you do that. I'm going to show you precisely how to do that. The second thing you're going to do after you introduce your character is you're going to introduce drama, just like those little kid stories, just like every Hollywood movie. And we're going to show you how and why to introduce the drama. And it's the drama that engages your limbic system, your reptilian brain, in a very visceral way that makes the listener participate from an emotional level, not an academic, cerebral, calculated, analytical brain. You don't want to get up there and start showing a spreadsheet and force them into analytical brain mode. You want them to be in the limbic, emotional, reptilian part of their brain, like everyone is when they go watch a Hollywood movie. Why? Because when they are watching, when you watch Harry Potter and the character jumps on a broom and flies away, you don't say to yourself, oh, that's not possible. You say, oh, okay, wow, that character jumped on a broom and flies away. And when you're listening to a pitch, any pitch you've ever listened to, you're listening from the analytical mind by default, unless the person has gone through my training. And then you are listening to the pitch, and I guarantee the first thought that comes to your mind is, that's not going to work so well. You're going to have trouble getting customers, and you're going to have a hard time getting more investors, and you're going to have this problem and that problem and this problem and that problem, because you're thinking with your analytical brain. And that's what the analytical brain does, is it finds problems in everything. The childlike children's story, nursery rhyme, Hollywood movie, part of the brain doesn't do this. It's not looking for problems. It's the character, it's empathizing with the character and falling into the drama, and they feel connected to it and they're emotional about it. And then there's this part called the wow moment, which every Hollywood movie also has. And it's the moment in the film where Happy Gilmore manages to get his high school girlfriend back, or make his dad proud again, or whatever the point of the movie is. You see what I'm saying? It's that moment in the film where the Transformers, beat the Decepticons, and life goes on and saves the planet. And that this wow moment is much more than it seems. This wow moment is, in fact, the critical moment in your pitch. Here's what it is. This you need to understand this fundamentally. If you miss this, you miss everything. There is going to be a moment in your pitch where the listener, whoever it is, an individual, small group, or large group, is going to say to themselves, wow. That's why it's called the wow moment, by the way. I know it's rather profound naming. So, and it's critically important that they say verbally out loud the words wow. Why? Because at that moment, they have felt an electric shock in themselves. Okay. And that electric shock that they feel is the same electric shock that you felt when you came up with your genius idea for your startup, right? And you, when you had the idea for your startup, felt some kind of electric kind of wow feeling, right? Or you wouldn't be spending the next 7 years of your life doing it. And I would argue that the whole point of this pitch is for you to transfer that divinely inspired electrical shock that you felt in the shower when you thought of your startup to the listener. And if you can transfer that electrical spark and shock to them, they're on your team. They will join the company as an investor or as an employee or as a partner or whatever else, because you're going to be pitching partners for the rest of your life as well, and investors and team members to join. And if they feel that spark that you felt, they'll join. And if they don't feel that spark, they won't. And it's pretty much as simple as that. So how do we get them to feel the wow moment? And how do we design the pitch to include a wow moment, which I'm going to show you exactly how to design a wow moment. And it's different for every pitch, but they're all architected in the same way, similar to anyone, if you've ever seen a Avicii pop song, they also architect, EDM is very cleverly architected, and you can hear how they build up to the wow moment when the bass drops, right? The do 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 do, and then the bass drops, and that's this releasing kind of a euphoric moment if it's done correctly. When they're engineered really well, you physically feel it, and you're like, holy shit! Now I'm jumping up and down for some reason. What the hell just happened? It's like, well, they architected and engineered the audio sonic equivalent of what I'm talking about, right? You felt this at some point, right? You felt the bass drop in the club and you started jumping like a jackass at 2 a.m, right? Okay. So I'm not saying that investors are going to jump up and down, you know, like they're in the club during your pitch, but you need them to feel that same kind of electrical response. And normally at this point, I would share a video of people sharing this pitch methodology. It's actually critically important that I do this at this moment. Can I do this and share my browser like a YouTube video right real quick? Sebastian, is that cool with you? Because I want you to see this in play.
Should work.
I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to go to one. There's 100. There's in fact a YouTube channel we've made of thousands of people doing this, but one that jumps to mind is called Grade Cam. Grade Cam Launch, and you got to see this pitch, and you're going to see exactly everything that I've just told you in about 2 seconds here on my YouTube screen. Give me 2 seconds while the YouTube does its little loading here. And now I have to share which screen I'm sharing. So let's see if this works. It does. Here we go.
We can't see the video though.
Yeah,
okay,
there we go. In a second. Okay. I don't know why YouTube's having trouble loading here. This is weird.
Do we need to hear the sound as well?
The audio? I think you will. And now it's buffering. So it should start any second here.
This is actually my mother a few years ago. She was.
Can you hear the audio? Perfect. So he starts with a character, which in this case is his mother. So you see how fast it started.
Can you increase the volume a little bit?
I will, yeah. But here, pay attention to what you've learned thus far. Character, drama, wow moment, right? Watch how he does them, okay? And notice he doesn't come out and give you anything other than that. Anything else other than character, drama, wow moment is actually fighting your purpose. Please remember, your purpose is to transfer the electrical shock, right? Your purpose is to deliver the wow moment using the character and the drama. Anything else is actually a distraction from that process. So don't come out and say, hey, I'm Vanessa, I'm Eric, I'm Jonah, and I'm this. That's not relevant to the movie. When you go to the movie theater, George Lucas doesn't jump out and say, oh, well, let me tell you why I made Star Wars and blah, 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 blah. No, just play the fucking movie, George. I'm here to watch Luke Skywalker beat Darth Vader and find out it's his father. And, you know, so leave that stuff out. You can do that later. So notice how quickly he jumps right into the character. That's the point here. And let me crank up the volume and watch how this works.
This is actually my mother a few years ago. She was a 7th grade language arts teacher in Pleasanton, California. She was overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork that she had.
Now notice, we just got the character. Character is a singular photo. That's fine. And it's believable. It's real, right? You said to yourself, is this a fake character? No, you're like, this feels real, right? Already we're 10 seconds in. Let's analyze what has happened thus far. Character introduced, and you're like, yeah, I buy this. She looks normal, looks real, feels real. That's fine. It doesn't actually matter if it's actually a real person. You just need a photo, and you want to strategically pick the photo of the person and the name of the person to match the people you're pitching to. So if you are pitching an investor, I would encourage you in the context of an investor pitch, find a photo that looks like the investor themselves, and the name of the character also happens to have a name similar to that character and grew up in the same small town. So do a little homework. Here's like a black belt ninja move you can do. Find out where the investor grew up, what college they went to, or what hometown they're from. And the character might happen to have the same name as their brother or sister or mother or father. And this is, you know, this character, same name as your mother, just went to this university. Oh, just coincidentally, same university you went to. I'm telling you, they are glued to the presentation at that point. Absolutely fucking glued. Like they're shaking their head like, I can't, but what the hell's going on here? And they feel a connection to this story you're going to share. And anything that happens to that character, they feel emotionally because it's from their hometown. And it happens to have the name of their daughter or son or whatever, right? So that's critically, now you can see how we got them out of the analytical brain into the emotional limbic system part of the brain in 10 seconds. Critically important. Okay, going on. He just introduced the character and he's starting to introduce the drama literally in the 15th, in the 12th second of the pitch. So watch again.
Hi, This is actually my mother a few years ago. She was a 7th grade language arts teacher in Pleasanton, California. She was overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork that she had. As a junior high teacher, she had over 1,000 pieces of paperwork to grade each week. And then after grading those assignments, she had to manually enter each of those grades into her grade book. On Sunday, she'd spend about 4 hours doing that. On top of that, in order to judge how much her students knew about certain topics, she would take her student quizzes home at night and tally how many each student got right and wrong on a piece of paper so that she could go in the next day and reteach if they didn't understand some information.
So that was the drama. He could have made the drama much more intense. He could have said, you know what? If she doesn't do all that, she gets fired. And then the drama just gets boosted a lot. And I'll give you a lot of examples of how to introduce drama, but that would be one way to really, she's got to do all of these papers by Monday morning, or her boss has told her, don't bother coming in unless you get all these papers graded. And now you're like, oh shit, I'm paying attention. And by the way, he mentioned that she was from Pleasanton, California, because the audience in this pitch are all in that city. So it's a forced empathy thing, character association, character empathy. So now he's going to go into the next phase of this pitch, which is critically important. It is the part of the pitch where you just go right to the product, and he's going to show the product from the perspective of the character, not from their own, not the pitcher's perspective, and not you, the listener's perspective, the character's perspective. And the character was introduced. The character has a problem. And here, by the way, write this shit down. This is the formula. The formula is character, drama, and the drama, they have a real problem. They're going to get fired if they don't fix it, or their loved one's going to leave them, or they're going to die of something, or whatever else it is. And in that predicament, they did what any normal person would do. They go to Google and they start Googling, and Google gives them some recommendations that for some reason or another didn't work out. And those are your competitors, likely, right? They found your competitor by Googling, and they tried it and it failed for some reason because your competitor is missing something that you have, right? So then the character learns magically about a new solution. That's your product or service. And they try it for the first time with no expectations other than they just had a failure of your competitor. And so the first thing they do is they try the product or service. That's yours. And the first thing they notice is how easy or cheap or beautiful or whatever you want the audience to first associate with your product or service. And be crystal clear, what is the main thing you want people to associate with your product or service? It's either the cheapest or the best designed or the fastest or the easiest, and be very concrete in your mind which of those it is. So the character tries the product, and the first thing they notice is how simple it is, or how beautiful it is, or how cheap it was, or fill in the blank for in your case. Okay. And again, the character notices. Why is this important that it's the character who's noticing and exploring and discovering this product or service, and not the actual audience member themselves or the pitcher themselves? It's because the audience is already empathizing with the character. And by empathizing with the character can go on their journey of discovering this new product and service. And I am vicariously living through this character who's doing this, and then the language becomes critically important. So let's keep watching for a second.
The first time she used GradeCam in her class, she logged in, she went to Forms. In Forms, she clicked on that she was going to be using a 10-digit form. She was going to be doing a lesson today on poems in her class. So she's going to give a brief quiz at the end of it. She printed out forms before the class. Then during class, she asked.
So he's actually not doing a good job in this pitch, to be honest with you. What you want to do, and it's not a problem. He's still going to have a huge wow moment, as you're going to see very shortly, which is why I picked this out of the hundreds in this account called Launch Conference. You can see it on the screen. It says Launch Conf. If you go there, there's literally hundreds of these pitches, all using the exact same format. and you can watch all of them and be inspired by all of them. And some do the character better, some do the drama better, some show the product better, some do the wow moment better than others. This particular one, he does the wow moment quite well. But the key thing about showing the product is it's like this. Let's do Uber, for example. I'm going to pitch Uber in 10 seconds. Okay, this is Charlie. He needs to get over to the hospital because his wife is expecting their first child. And if he doesn't get there, she's leaving. Right? So, shit. And there's no taxis around. His friend says, why don't you try this app called Uber? Okay, great. So he clicks Uber. He calls for the car. And the first thing he notices is just how incredibly simple it is. And in one button, now he's got drivers. He sees all the cars around the city. They all start driving towards him. He sees how many minutes it's going to take. So he can message his wife and say, honey, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And the drama's relieved. He gets to the hospital on time. They hug. The baby's born. They had twins. Wow. Big wow moment. Everybody's happy. You see, now you're associating all of these emotions with Uber about, holy shit, the guy had twins and everything else, right? So that's like a 2-minute. I mean, that was a 30-second elevator pitch, right? So the point is, when we talk about the discovery of the product, there's very specific language to use. The character notices she. You could say she or he. Okay, so the first thing she notices is that it's very simple. And then she clicks here. She does this. She does X, Y, Z. And then she's going to get some result. Nearly every product or service is the same. The character is going to do something, some minor requirement is needed on behalf, some input from the user is going to result in some output from your product or service. In the case of Uber, I press one button and a car comes. Holy shit, that's a lot of result for a single click, right? Now, that's why Uber has a wow. Google's the same. I put in a little piece of text, boom, I get a whole shit ton of really valuable results instantly. Very minimal input, maximum surprising amount of output from the product. You need to do the same. You need to have the character do an incredibly easy, light, simple input and show a holy shit, wow result of output from your product or service. And that is key to the wow. That is usually the wow moment, because the basis by which we judge products and services is what's required as input, what's given back as output. It's almost that simple. So think about what is needed and make it feel very simple, because it's a mathematical formula. X is the input. You want a 5X output. If you put in X and you only get back X, 2X, that's a weak wow, right? You actually want it to feel like they put in some small, very simple amount. They didn't have to do too much and they got back a lot of value, right? So be conscious of how much input they are putting into your product. Make it feel light and simple, especially if your proposition is that you are the easiest product on the market or the simplest, or you see why I'm saying then it becomes critically important that it feel light and simple, because if your proposition is the first thing the character notices is how simple and light and easy it is, well, then by golly, it really better be in terms of what's needed for them to get their output. You can have complicated input, but then you better have a holy shit, wow output. So be mindful of that algebraic equation of the input versus the output. So in this case, the pitch continues.
Tyler, sorry for a second. Kat, what's up?
We have 10 minutes left of the presentation. So
okay.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Easy. Cool. Easy peasy. So watch this.
Everyone, what's a narrative quiz? And one of the students immediately raised.
So he's doing the input, right?
A narrative quiz is a quiz that tells
the character's doing input.
And she assumed that the class knew, and she continued on with her lesson. I went through.
He's actually doing a bad job of it. Doesn't matter.
She wrote 7 questions on the board, on the chalkboard, and they were multiple choice questions. And she created a new assignment.
Here's her input. She makes an assignment. Okay, she has to click a few boxes. Okay, she clicks done. Here's the quiz. Now watch this. So what she did was, because he did such a terrible job of the setup of describing his own product, I'll do it for him. She's a teacher, remember? She needs to make a quiz. So she tells GradeCam that it's a 7-question quiz, piece of cake. Just how many questions? 7. Great. Next, tell me the correct answers for the quiz. Okay, easy. Here's how I'm going to show you the correct answers for the quiz. It's like this. Those are the correct answers. Okay. She just prints out a blank one and fills in the bubbles on her piece of paper. She shows it to her webcam. The app understands, okay, these are the correct answers for the quiz that the kids are now going to take. Now watch what happens.
GradeCam just read the assignment and translated all the scores immediately into the gradebook. As the students finished their quizzes, they brought them up to the computer.
Now that before they go to lunch, they bring up their test scores and they just flash it to the camera.
Placed in front of the camera. Each assignment is scored.
Did you just say, wow? You did. Everyone's nodding their heads. They're saying, right? You said wow to yourself? A little bit, right? Not the world's biggest wow, but a wow. You're like, holy shit, that's really cool, right? So that's an emotional feeling that you just had. Now there's going to be a secondary wow moment in a minute. So watch this. Well, there's the audience saying wow. They're clapping, which doesn't normally happen during pitches like that.
Just scored all of those quizzes. One of the students actually had,
which is critically important because the whole point was his mom spends her whole weekends grading quizzes, but now she can just boom, boom, boom.
a
Right?
hard time. But GradeCam was able.
So then he just showed, a crumpled paper. It's an objection that somebody's going to have listening at home. Somebody in their analytical mind in the audience is like, but this isn't going to work because kids crumple their papers. And he's going to show you that doesn't matter for that one person who's in their analytical mind. But you weren't. You didn't even think of that, did you? Because you're not in your analytical mind. You're in your childlike nursery story, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, Harry Potter mind. You're just following along. So he meets the objection.
Immediately at the end of that quiz, she went.
Here's the secondary wow. Now that it's in data form, she gets to see which question they all got right and which ones they got wrong. And she can see that the class got question number 1 right, number 2 right. That's the green that you're seeing. Question number 3, you can see there's a lot of red. So now she realizes, the kids misunderstood the question on number 3. We've got 5 minutes left before we go to lunch. I can reteach that point before they leave for lunch. Normally, I'd have to go home and do this for several hours and come back the next day and reteach them. And now I can do it instantly. That's a second wow if he framed it correctly, right?
It's an item analysis. And right there, she was able to see that number 3, her question about what's a narrative quiz, despite someone answering that, only 33% of the class got.
Again, he's doing a terrible job of explaining.
It's an online grade book. I click on the.
A third little wow is all of this data is importable to whatever grade book system the school's using. Like one click, export into the traditional grade book. Kind of a minor wow, but a kind of an important one.
And
there's all the scores. That's great. That's GradeCam. We're GradeCam. If you felt the wow, come talk to me afterwards. So here's my email. If you felt the electric shock, either join us on our team or invest or be a partner. And if you felt the shock, and I think you did, that's the point. That's a successful pitch. Even though he did a terrible job at the actual details of revealing, he could have done a much, much better job. So there's many other examples in this video account. Launch Conf right here, down here in the bottom corner. So it's called Launch Conf. You can find that account and you can go through and scroll down through the pitches and you will see hundreds. Oh, here, I love this one. I know we don't have time for it, but watch this one if you do get a chance. It's called One Drop. I wrote this pitch myself as I did all the pitches in this account. Jeff Dotchis is the founder of Razorfish, one of the biggest digital agencies that the world has ever had, and fundamentally the first and the biggest, most important. And this one drop pitch will blow your mind using this methodology. He has a character in the story that watch how fast he just does the character in the drama.
Meet Joanna. Joanna blacked out in her elevator office at work. She knocked herself out as her head hit the floor. She busted up her eye, her nose, her lip.
Character drama. Boom. 10 seconds. Right? And you're in. You're like, what's going to happen to Joanna? I'm listening. Right? And then he reveals at the very end of the pitch, by the way, Joanna's me. I'm the one who blacked out in the elevator. I'm the one who busted up my teeth because it's a diabetic product. It's a solution for Joanna. And then he reveals, actually, I built it for myself because I'm a diabetic, just like millions of Americans, blah, 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 blah. So, but you can't use yourself as the character. It doesn't work. Why? Because the audience will not project themselves onto you. It's just not how it works. The human animal doesn't do that. We project ourselves onto these Hollywood characters, which can be tailored to be far more empathy inducing, right? And they're not going to believe you as the character because you have a conflict of interest. Of course you had a wonderful experience with this product. You're the founder of the product. Of course it works for you. And it's important that it be this neutral third-party character who's exploring it and how they feel about it. And you, as you're describing how the character is discovering the product, it's important that you say, so they do this and they feel this way about it. Don't say they can do this, say they do this, because the way that stories work is they're not hypothetical. You don't say, now the character could do this or can do this. Say the character does this, the character clicks this, and the character feels this. Not, now the character can click this. Engineers do this all the time when they're describing their products. Oh, you can click this or you can click this and click, maybe you can click this. No, the character clicks this and here's what happens next. And here's how they feel about it. And they're super surprised and they're super delighted and they love how simple it is. So you'll see all of these pitches like OneDrop and GradeCam. There's literally hundreds of them and you can learn from every one of them. So do dive into those. It's a great resource. Now back to the deck. Let me change the screen again of which one I'm sharing.
We have 5 minutes.
I got you. We're good. So you got the wow moment and now you understand the wow moment. You felt it. You get it. You understand the character and the drama, and then you got the happy ending. And the happy ending is on GradeCam, I left out the best part. Oh my God. On GradeCam,
1,000 students using may have
the best part is he reveals he built this for his mother as a teacher so that the children of teachers can have their moms back. And the whole audience goes from clapping to crying when you realize, holy shit, this guy wanted his younger brother to have his mom that he didn't have because she spent all of her time grading papers for other kids. And he built this for not just the teachers to get their time back, but for who he feels I get emotional remembering it 12 years later. Right? And that's this beautiful, and great movies do that. That's what great movies do. And that's what he does in GradeCam. And by the way, OneDrop does as well. Jeff, who's in that OneDrop pitch, when he says at the end, by the way, I'm Joanna, I'm the one who busted my teeth and blah, blah, blah. So it's that happy ending is key because that emotional shit, that sticks. And remember I said at the beginning, what's the key to this whole process? Memorable and likable. Why? Because you're pitching against 20 other startups. And if you did what GradeCam did with that ending that I just told you about, or what OneDrop did, who do you think is going to be memorable out of the 20 startup pitches they just saw? Right? So keep in mind, there's different formats of pitching. You're pitching investors or press or partners or your in-laws or at big conferences. I've covered that many times. And you're either doing a 10-second or a 1 minute or a 5 minute or a 30-minute pitch. Understand which one you're in. That's just part of the nature of being in the game. You're going to have to do variations of all of these, right? And the method works in all of those. And again, personalize the pitch to the person you're pitching. This is my friend Jay from Zelkova Ventures. I know he likes to ski. The character in my story is probably going to be skiing. And the character is probably going to be named after his kids, his siblings, or his parents. And almost certainly from the same hometown or from the mountain where he likes to go skiing. And one other important point, here's two characters right here, Pino and Pilut. And if I'm trying to make a point about raising funds to feed Pino and Pilut, I can show you spreadsheets and data all day long, or I can show you them and say, let's raise money for them. Which is more likely to work? The emotional character drama or the data spreadsheet? Who's going to raise more money for these two guys? It's super simple. This is not complicated. We already know how our brains are wired. Other critical important rules with the 1 minute I have left. Never say we in your pitch. Never say you. Never say I. Why? Because you're watching a mental movie. And in this mental movie, don't bring the listener into the movie by saying the word you. Because when you're watching Star Wars, they don't ever say, oh, hey, Vanessa. And all of a sudden you're like, what? Luke Skywalker just said my fucking name. And then the movie's broken. You're no longer in, it breaks the mental movie mind state. So don't bring them into the movie. Don't say the word you ever during your pitch. And don't say the word I. You as the maker of the movie, you as, whoever wrote Harry Potter, don't bring yourself into the story. It's not about you as the storyteller. It's about the character and the drama. And don't say the word we, because it's very unclear who you mean by we. You and your co-founders, you and the people in the room, you and your parent. Don't say we, and don't say can. Can is a hypothetical. It means potentially, maybe. In the narrative format, it's concrete. It's already in the past tense, not in some future tense. So don't pitch in the future tense of this character might do this, and maybe they find this website, and maybe they click this. No. This is all past tense. It's already happened. The character did this, and then this, and then this, and then this. So that's the kind of the golden rules that you need to keep in mind. You can take a screenshot of that. They're quite simple to remember. No, we, you, I, or can. And just to keep people in that mental mind state. And I guess we're out of time on that, but that's the bulk of it. And then we can go into your startups and tailorize your pitch, but you can do it yourself. Just watch the hundreds of videos of other people doing the exact same process, and you no doubt will be like, oh, okay, that's how I can do my version of my startup in that way. So I will pause there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tyler. Really, really valuable feedback, input on how to pitch. We have a couple of minutes for Q&A. Anyone want to jump in with a question?
I want to start with launching a poll, if that's okay. Just three questions quickly, just for feedback for our future sessions.
Awesome.
For the last question, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to send them in the chat, and we'll make sure to keep it in mind for future sessions.
Yep. Thanks, Kat. Steven, did you have a question?
No, it's a great presentation though. It's interesting to hear it, and trying to apply it. It's messing with my slides all through, looking for stock art of people to tell stories about.
Yeah. Oh, great point. That is a question. What about the character? What about the image that you find? I would encourage you, be careful not to find real generic stock images of models, because the audience understands them as that, and then they don't empathize with them. Far better to find what this guy did, which is a very believable photo of somebody that you know that in a very believable context. Because if you show a stock image model, their brain just goes into, yeah, this ain't a real character. I'm not down with this. You want them to believe that it's a real character with a real problem. So show a very,
okay, yeah, good point.
Tyler, question for me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. That was good stuff.
Thanks.
If you can't find a character, I mean, that was your entire pitch, obviously, but is there any other sort of motion way to get people attached to your story? Like, could you use some other vehicle if you just can't find a character?
No. Oh, without doing the character format, is there? I am wondering if I can dig through that YouTube channel and find examples where there aren't characters. It's quite rare. And there's the issue of what about two characters? Because in marketplace apps where Uber, for example, you have the driver and then the rider, and who's the character? Because it depends on who you're pitching. And in those pitches, we've often go through the process of attempting both stories. We create both stories separately. We try pitching both separately to see which makes more sense.
Got it.
And that happens a lot. Nothing's jumping to mind of an example where a character wasn't usable, because it almost implies like your product isn't used by people somehow. Generally, whoever you're trying to influence is a person. And there's in 2021, at least, I mean, in the not so distant future, are going to get removed. But even if you're pitching a robot, you're pitching the Amazon warehouse guy who's making the decision to use robots instead of human. And it's still, you're appealing to a human. So I'm having a hard time thinking of examples where you wouldn't. Do you have one in mind?
No, well, I think it's a good idea to use character. Another question, like if you're in the market and you have some really strong metrics, how do you tie that to your story?
Your data,
and your character? Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant question. So very simply, this is, remember the teacher? Let's use the teacher example. So this is my mom. She's a teacher, 7th grade teacher. And like the 500,000 middle school teachers of California, she XYZ. So in one tiny little setup of her character, I just revealed a critical data point that may, by the way, every data point that you share is either, it's relevant to what the expectation is of the listener. So the listener has some calculation in their brain of how many teachers there are. And if the reality is to your benefit, so you have a lot of choices about what you reveal in your pitch. There's no point in revealing anything that matches the audience's expectation. That's what they assumed. Why reveal it? So if I say 90% of teachers are female or something like that, and the audience thought the same, yeah, that's pointless to reveal that. It's a waste of time in the pitch. So, but if there's something like, 95% of teachers are left-handed, now all of a sudden it's like, that's totally different than what the audience expected. And they're like, holy shit, okay. As long as that's relevant to your unique proposition, then if you have some important data point that is quite different than their expectation, then reveal it. I'll give you a better example. If your team, the listener being an investor, has some expectation of your team, even though you've not shown your team slide yet at all. They're thinking, this is probably 3 or 4 people. 2 of them have some experience, maybe somebody from a tech school. They may have raised a little family fund money or whatever. There's some expectation level. If you have achieved much more than what they expect, then feel free to include that by saying, we have these partners, like these tremendously huge logos or whatever. And then it's valuable to reveal, right? And for sure, don't reveal it if it's less than what they assume. So if it matches it, it's not really important. But if you have important data points that are important to establishing that you have more partners than they would assume. So you could say the teacher heard about this new product that 90% of schools are using in California. That's a data point about your market, and that is important and it's super impressive, and it's relevant to the character. The character is using it because she's heard that this product is now being used by 90% of school teachers in California or in Botswana or whatever the issue is, if it's related to your market size. Or what's another important data point that you think might need to be included? And I'll show you how to include it.
Got it. So are you saying it's a mistake to show like a
No.
big, unrelated to the character, like a big wow, like a big brag thing initially to sort of create credibility for the rest of the story?
Give me an example and I'll show you exactly how to integrate it. So let's say, for example, you have this huge marquee client that you want to reveal, right? Yeah. So the character has this problem, has the drama, but recently learned that there's a product that IKEA is using. And so that's how they learned about the product. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
It's like integrate the brag into the character's reason for why they discovered the product, or during the product they notice that they go to the first thing they do. The character goes to the site. They see on the front of the page, wow, what a fantastic bunch of logos. They see that their friends over at American Airlines is using it, or they notice that Skanska's using it, or ABB's using it, or whatever. That's how you could, integrate that in. But there's usually you want to brag about how much market adoption you have, or mention your traction in some sort of capacity, right? Or what's another data point you want to add in?
I guess the input output thing.
Yeah.
If you really have it. And I guess a benchmark where you kick the benchmark's ass.
Well, then the character is looking for a solution, and tried using your competitor, and it was just super slow, and just realized this isn't going to work. And then recently read about a new product that has this benchmark that's 50 times faster, so was curious to check it out.
Mm.
And you're right, products are usually cheaper, easier, faster. It usually boils down to one of these 4 easy concepts. And you could really emphasize, you want the character, in your case, if you're a faster product, that the character just loves how much faster this is and how much time it saves them, and really focus on the time. And by the way, GradeCam was a time product. And we really humanized the time by making it possible for teachers to spend time with their families and the child to spend time with their mothers. Because it's not just about saving time. It's about teachers spending time with their children. That will be what makes you memorable and likable. Saving somebody, 3 hours a day. Okay, that's nice. That's analytical. Keep it out of the analytical, make it emotional and human. And then you're memorable and likable. And again, remember, you almost certainly are part of a pool of pitches. And that is fundamental to why this process is so powerful, because when they sit down as a group of judges at the end to determine, okay, who are we going to give this to, you're right at the top of their fucking mind, because you touched them. They felt it electrically.
Stephen.
Yeah, so the kind of emotional reaction event, does it all have to revolve around the same character? Could like the first character be like a software developer who's trying to fix this so that the content in all the vehicles works in the right language, for the internet? And then the kind of emotional happy thing is like whatever, that like maybe that same, do I need to go back and say that same software developer also owns one of these cars, and now their kid is
separate character,
or we could jump
separate character. And when you introduce the second character, most stories have 2 characters, by the way. And the second character.
Sorry, Tyler, to interrupt. We just ran out of time. Okay. I'm not going to close down the Zoom to let Tyler answer the question completely. But for those who have to drop off, thank you so much for joining. Catch up with you later, and we'll share the recordings and the deck afterwards. Thanks. Cool. Please continue.
Thanks.
Yeah. To quickly answer that, the second character, always make it a different gender than the first character. Why? Because naturally, if you're going to use the first name of the person perfectly every time, John, and then Jeff, okay, then you can use the same gender. But naturally, in natural language, you're going to shift into he and she. This is Jeff, and then he does this, and he does this, and he does this, and he does this. Second character, now when you start saying he again, it's not clear who you're talking about. So it's better to have a different gendered second character.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So you use he and she is much more distinguishable. So.
Yeah.
Vanessa?
Hi, I just have a question, because you show also this YouTube channel where basically everybody's speaking in front of an audience.
Okay, yeah.
So basically everybody's speaking in front of an audience. And I was just thinking, what about when you have to send your pitch to someone, or upload on a portal, or send it to a friend who will send to someone else? So you just have this presentation.
There are now very awesome little startup tools that allow you to use little pencil drawing characters, and you make little YouTube videos out of it. And I do encourage that when contacting people, it's often far preferable to send a little YouTube video than to send a paragraph of text, because they'll click a video, and generally once they click it, they'll watch it. Much better click-through rates generally. But I'll find the names of those. I think no doubtedly somebody on this call has used one at some point. Doodle, I think, is the name of it. Doodle pitch. I'll find it. But we could move on to the next one and circle back.
Yeah, we need to. Is there any other questions that? Obviously, Tyler is available if you want to reach out to him. Which is your preferred email?
Tyler at STHLM Tech, and STHLM Tech is spelled STHLM TECH.
Yep.
And it's
At
called
Stockholm.
TYLER at STHLM TECH.com, and it's called Doodly, DOODLY.
Got it. So if you have more questions, then you could always reach out to Tyler. Yeah, we need to end the session now because we're going to jump into a fireside chat, Tyler.
Okay.
And those who are interested in tuning in, then you can find us on the socials. We're not going to do. We're going to do Facebook, YouTube, and we're going to try LinkedIn for the first time. So please tune in. Kat, anything else? Did you get the survey responses?
Yes, I did. Thank
Awesome.
you, everybody.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Tyler, just a quick one. Is this a service that you want to offer?
Is it what?
Basically, do you have time to offer this service, like work through pitches? Like, I'm just making sure, because I'm interested in working with you on the pitch.
Just ping. You can ping me. We can figure something out.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
really good session. See you guys on the fireside chat.
But watch through the YouTube accounts first, because that you'll get 90% of the way there through that.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm ending the Zoom now. Okay. Take care, everyone. See you on socials. Bye.